Welcome, everyone. We're entering a world not so distant from this one, where the boundaries between flesh and machine blur into obscurity, and neon-lit dreams collide with steel-clad nightmares. Welcome to the electrifying realm of Cyborg. This is a Cyborg actual play campaign using the Cyborg OSR rules published by Free League Publishing. I am DG, the Game Master, and I'm ready to guide you punks, you gutter trash, through this capitalist nightmare that will grind your souls down to a fine powder and scatter it to the wind. Oh, look at my little punks! I hate to say it, I'm really proud of you. You've come so far, punks. Only a few months ago, you were gutter trash. Rats from the bottom of the barrel, the absolute dregs of society with no prospects, having to kill, rob, and steal just to pay the rent, just so you could afford another week in your cramped little coffin motels and shitty sardine can apartments. And now, just look at you! Mercs with an actual reputation. Mercs that can get the job done. Consummate professionals with all sorts of clients lining up for jobs. And tonight, you're going to hit the milestone that very few in Psy ever get to do unless they were born into old money or happen to capture lightning in a bottle and endear themselves to the corpse. Tonight, you're getting your own digs. A safe house. A hideout to call your own. Provided by Patton. A place where you can regroup, plan your next move, and recover without worrying about the Scorpions or the Shortfall Collective tracking you down. Or at least, Patton hopes. There's also the extra bonus of being able to finally get to the bottom of what's going on in Frank's head. After Azure rattled around in their last session, she perhaps awakened something in Frank that had been completely hidden in slumber, and now returned to the world. When you finally manage to clear Patton's bunker and make it your own, it'll be the perfect place for Azure to complete her work, to take Frank apart, break him down, and get at the true core of what's inside. Put an end to this weirdness. And so, here you are, continuing on directly where we left off last session. Axie slides through a warped metal gate into a weed-choked, cracked, decrepit, and empty parking lot. The parking lot that serves what was, at one point in time, a Kartel maker's emergency bunker. Built around the time of the incident that created Ground Zero, this bunker was intended as a place for Kartel makers to store some of their less important technology, to squirrel away some of their assets that they were able to get out of Ground Zero and safeguard them just in case the nano plague in Ground Zero got out and infected the city of Psy itself. Alas, it never did. And so this place fell into disuse and disrepair, eventually falling into Patton's hands, and now yours. As you alight from Axie and your boots touch down on the weed-choked, not really asphalt at this point, more like dust and debris, scattered pebbles and shards of concrete, you take in the sight before you, your new home. It's right on the edge of Barnyard Fields. It's incorporated legally as part of the Tarpike Projects, a series of state-of-the-art developments and property, the remnants of an ill-advised property boom about 20-odd years ago that saw the creation of several identical sardine can apartment buildings, automated shipping warehouses and corporate branch offices, but now is mostly abandoned and has been completely congealed into the mass of decay and desperation that is the slums. But this bunker, your new home, is isolated even from that. It's far beyond the outer edges of the neon haze, the smell of sweat and desperation, the piles of rubbish, the bars on windows. It's right on the very edge of one of Sigh's fetid, black, brackish, watery canals, and right across the river you can all see the grand 20-foot tall concrete wall that serves as a barrier around Ground Zero. You can almost hear the horrors, you can almost feel the chaos. You can almost feel your brains grappling with the neurological chaos of the nanoplague just meters away across the river. The bunker itself is a fairly unremarkable building. It's a windowless, featureless concrete square right in the very center of the abandoned parking lot. There's no fancy architecture, no identifying marks at all, save for faded gold lettering peeling from the grimy concrete reading Kartel Makers. A faded billboard hanging just above the gate leading into the parking lot claims that this is an old, quote-unquote, fulfillment center / warehouse. That's just a cover, of course. According to Patton, the bunker is underground, underneath, unspoiled, untouched, and waiting for you. So, upon taking in the first sight of your potential new home, what are your thoughts, punks?
Well, Frank is visibly highly agitated, incredibly nervous. I don't think you guys have seen him agitated and nervous before.
No.
He's agitated and nervous.
He's even... Go ahead, Eliza.
Like a bit of a fixer-upper?
Yeah, well... I would say that'd be applicable to most places people would call home inside.
I got a big problem.
You alright, big guy?
I've been going for a couple of weeks to the bunker Patton wanted us to go to and to clean her up and put in stuff, and I didn't come here.
Oh no.
All that stuff that Frank's been gathering up, broken turrets and robots and things that he claims to be putting to work in the hideout, well, this wasn't the place he was referring to, Frank. This bunker is a place you've never been before. Everything else you were referring to was happening in the basement underneath Patton's store, right there in the ports. It turns out that Patton refers to the basement of his store as the bunker. After all, it's essentially what it is, a big concrete room filled with decommissioned artillery and military surplus and battle robots in various different states of deconstruction. But no, even Frank hasn't been here before, but even so, Frank, as your heavy boots crunch along the broken asphalt, and you walk towards the perfectly nondescript concrete square in front of you, there is something uncanny about it, something unsettling. You find your eyes drifting to the peeling Kartel Maker's logo on the concrete facade, and you get the feeling that you know this place, though you search your memory banks, Frank, and for the life of you can't find any record of having actually been here.
I'll tell you guys what. This place might be a little bit too rich for my blood. I mean, I can almost see myself in that sign.
Yeah, I'm sure we can make it a little dirtier for you.
Yeah.
You want us to fix it down rather than fix it up?
We do what's necessary in order to make it livable.
We can just push all the rubbish into his room. I'm sure he'll rather that.
You're not sure what to think of this, PU. You were told that this place has been abandoned for years. Theoretically, it should have years' worth of accrued filth and debris and wreckage, and yet that white concrete that makes up the walls of the building, they're entirely empty, even though it's decrepit parking lot. Something not quite right. It feels like somebody's given you a mansion in the hills to live in. It's too clean, and you feel yourself bursting with the need, PU, to get inside that building, find the entrance to the bunker, and get to work fixing the place up.
All right, PU says, and he cracks his knuckles with a 1-2, and he turns towards the door. Let's go fuck this place up properly.
The fulfillment center itself isn't very large. The concrete block is about the size of 2 large shipping containers attached end on end. You wonder how you're going to fit all of your crew and your accessories and still have any room for personal space in there, but well, looks can be deceiving. Patton said that the bunker is hidden underground. Perhaps this little white block is nothing more than the cover. So, PU, as you approach the single entrance, a set of very thick, rust-flecked, grey iron doors, you see the forlorn barrel of an old security turret poking out of a hole above the door. It doesn't appear to be moving. There's no light or anything else indicating it's even on, but the barrel is pointed straight down, right at the patch of ground in front of the door, ready to blast anyone who happens to be standing there.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon the caliber is on that thing? Think you could pierce this dome?
Tough.
You reckon it's on? Doesn't look like it's lit.
Anyone who'd like to have a go can make me a knowledge technology check.
Sure.
Can Frank just walk up and tap on it?
Yeah, sure.
Frank walks up and knocks on it.
I got like a 9.
9? Yeah. Frank looks up at it, a pensive look on his face, and he strides forwards as Azur's eyes scan the base of the building, the rooftop, the corners. There's no sign of any modern technology as you understand it, Azure. This turret looks distinctly more mechanical than cybernetic. You don't detect any of the usual accoutrements. There's no motion detector, no obvious camera lenses. You don't
Frank
even
tries
see...
to stare down the barrel and see in the barrel, and then after that,
Never a good idea, Frank.
He's gonna start
Well,
blowing on the top of it to see if we can, like, you know how with bottles and tubes you can make that whistling sound when you blow
play
across it.
music.
Can you
Yeah.
see the round down there?
Not my style.
No, it's too dark.
Yeah. Is peering, blowing into the end of the barrel, letting out a low, long... And Azure, if anyone looks at you now, they'd see a question mark popping up on your face, because you have no idea how this facility even functions. There doesn't even look like there's an access point, at least no externally visible one, to the city-wide web. If you had to hazard a guess, you'd say this turret is either off or it's waiting to spring its trap. You see Frank reaching up, about to grab the barrel and pull on it. Do you say anything to stop him?
I might stop him trying to pull it apart because we want to keep it probably intact once we're done with the place.
True point. It's technically yours now. Frank, you wrap one of your knuckles on the side of the turret, and I'd like you to go ahead and make me a presence check and add +2 for your perception, please.
Well, you know, that kind of important. Oh dear.
Make sure you leave it intact, Frank. We might need that later.
How'd you do, Frank?
Just waiting. Oh, can somebody roll a d20 for me?
Happy to.
Sure. Go ahead, Tris.
Eee. Oh wait, no, it's better than I thought because the dice was clear. I couldn't see it. It's a 14 with his +2.
14, nice.
Well,
So
that goes all the way down to I have a -3.
you do in your presence. So it goes down to 11. The DR is 10 though. So Frank, as you wrap your knuckle on the barrel, the turret itself does not physically move, but you hear a low mechanical whine from somewhere within the wall, perhaps the door itself, the sound of turning gears, and then all of a sudden it stops.
I wonder if I can, how did we describe it last session? Stimulate it. I'm going to drop my little probes into the barrel, and I'm going to put a bit of juice through the gun into the system, because there's going to be cables and computers and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just going to send a few thousand volts through to ring the doorbell.
Here's what the rest of you see. You see Frank's huge hulking frame reach up to the gun. You see the electricity surge through the back of his hands, through his fingers, into the rusty barrel. And then you all hear that unmistakable whir of gears, of a machine being jump-started back to life. Somewhere inside, from somewhere behind the thick iron doors, you hear the unmistakable put-put-put of an engine, brrr, roaring to life, and then the barrel of the turret begins to whir.
Ah shit, duck and cover. He's dumping behind Daxi.
Piyu's ducking behind Daxi, and Azure, what did you say?
I would like to get out of the line of sight of that
Out
thing.
of the line of sight. And, alright, I would like Azure and Piyu to go ahead and make me agility checks. Piyu and Azure, you're both ducking right behind Axie, so you may roll and add +1 to your roll, because Axie's got armor plating, and all you have to do, really, is get your body behind the bulk that is Axie, and it should save most.
Is Frank in a position to just sort of push the barrel so that it's not pointing at his friends?
You can, but Frank, the force you would exert would probably make it so it's permanently pointing in whatever direction you bend it in. And given that this is going to be your home and that this security mechanism appears to be functioning, do you really want to destroy it, essentially? Render it much more ineffective?
They're pointing a weapon at my friends. Yeah, he's not going to allow them to be shot. If he has to stand in front of it, he's not going to allow them to be shot.
Well, I will ask Azure and PU to make their agility rolls first, and Charlie, what are you doing? You could duck for cover, or, noticing that there is something mechanical, you could maybe send one of your faithful pets out to assist Frank in shutting the thing down.
I was actually going to ask if I could get Rex to override it.
Yeah, sure can.
Question for you quickly, Dale.
Yep.
Is this considered a defense roll?
I'd say yeah. Go ahead, call it a defense roll.
Axie applies a minus DR2.
It does, yes. So essentially just add +2 to your roll. Yeah, and same for you, Azure.
Yeah, I did have another question. At the end of last session, were we... I seem to remember you saying that were we keeping our health as it was?
Yes.
We're moving straight onto here?
Yeah.
Alright, double checking
Haven't had a chance to recover yet.
I rolled a 6 or 8, depending on... Yeah, 8.
So 8?
I rolled a 11 total.
11? Ooh, well. So, Azure, would you like to glitch, or would you like to accept that as it is and wait to see whether Charlie is able to reroute the thing?
Not sure I want to glitch. So I'm not going to glitch. I'll save them.
PU looks over his shoulder at his faithful Axie and, without a word, throws his body over the hood, rolling to the other side of the car. And Azure, you move to follow, but you've got your cyber deck around your shoulder, you've got all your instruments that you've been unloading out of Axie, ready to move into the bunker, and weighed down by all of them, you're only able to get as far as Axie's hood before the gunfire begins to peel out. Charlie, you fling open your trench coat and reach into your pocket for Rex, the little kitten. As you lift him out, his eyes go wide as he hears the gunfire. He shivers in your hand and he says, "Meow! Meow!"
Is he nervous?
He appears to be quite nervous. The tiny little robotic cat, he's only the size of the palm of your hand, and each of his joints is shaking as the bullets pound into the asphalt, drawing nearer and nearer to Axie with each passing second.
It's okay. Just go in there and just pull wire out for now.
Go ahead and make me a knowledge technology roll, please.
I forgot what the pluses were on that one. Was it plus?
So it'll be D20 plus whatever your knowledge is, plus 2 for your technology proficiency.
Okay, so it's a 15 then.
15, nice. You carefully lower the little kitten to the ground, and as soon as you do, a bullet slams into the asphalt about 3 or 4 centimeters from its tiny little body. It leaps up into the air in fright, letting out a great yowl as it dashes across the parking lot, scrambles up the side of the thick iron door like a cat climbing an iron mesh, and then bats at the paw. And as it bats at the paw, you see its claws extend, turning into long, snake-like, multicolored wires. The wires seep into a gap underneath where the barrel's attached to the roof, and suddenly... The barrel slows, the gunfire stops, just as one last bullet slams into the hood of Axie, ricocheting off, leaving not even a scratch on Axie's reinforced bodywork. A few seconds later, the kitten retracts its claws and slowly makes its way back to Charlie, its tail up in the air, curving into a question mark shape. Charlie, it rubs against your ankle, looks up at you, and a mechanical voice says, "Purr, purr."
You did a kitten.
An unwashed, oily, and floppy mohawk peeks up first from behind Axie before his RCD peeks up over the edge of it. Is it off?
You have Rex to thank for that one.
You peer up at the barrel, and the turret is now appearing to swivel left and right. Zzz, chink, zzz, chink, slowly scanning the parking lot for threats. Whatever it's using to detect threats, an unseen camera, inbuilt motion detector, its unseen gaze passes over Axie and all of you punks, and it apparently no longer registers you as threats. It's in operation, working as intended, and seems to recognize its new owners.
Excellent.
Well done.
Thanks, Rex.
It's fairly easy then for PU to stride forwards, kneel down in front of the thick iron doors, slide his lockpicks into one of the gaps between the doors, jiggle it around, and after hearing a loud click, step back and flourish at the now unlocked doors. And you're also quite happy to see PU as you peer down at your lockpick that the tip of it is absolutely encrusted in black tar-like filth.
Oh, there might be something good here yet.
Weren't we given a key at all or anything?
Nothing at all. You were sent...
That's suspicious.
Who the fuck needs a key? You got me.
Yeah.
Those were
I suppose it
essentially
means
Patton's...
no one can get the key to steal it from us.
Yeah, those were Patton's words essentially. Who needs a key when you got a good man like PU, an expert at breaking and entering beyond enemy lines?
Good man is a little bit of a stretch, but I'll take the rest.
Wait.
Frank steps forwards, flexes his arms, and presses against the iron doors, and with an ear-splitting metallic creak, he pushes them open. A big cloud of dark grey dust immediately billows out from the now open doorway, causing all of you to double over and begin to violently cough and retch. Except for PU, I suspect.
PU takes a deep breath and he just says, Oh, it's just like home.
This place needs some work.
Oh, it could get a whole lot worse. You're so right.
That's not alright. No.
With the doors open, you're able to step into the concrete block itself, and you're disappointed at first when you see that the interior of the building is just as small, cramped, and unremarkable as its exterior. An area that resembles the inside of a shipping container, with iron plating covering the outer concrete walls, dusty wooden crates stacked in piles in the corners, across the floor space, their labels long since having faded, and just on the other side of the door, a rusted reception desk, the metal almost collapsing in on itself. Behind it is a humanoid android, or what's left of a humanoid android. Most of its outer casing, its bodywork has broken off, peeled away, and you're essentially staring at a metallic human skeleton with all sorts of cords and circuit boards dangling from its rib cage. And as it sees you all step across the threshold, red LEDs boom, blink on in its empty, gaunt eye sockets. Welcome, welcome, it says, swiveling back and forth. Attention, attention, inventory has not been conducted in 2,738 days. Please register your employee ID number at the terminal and proceed with scheduled inventory and maintenance. The android... Nearly a decade. In fact, Azure, you're smart enough. You quickly run the numbers in your head and realize that comes out to about 7.5 years.
He's counting on his fingers. Like 3 weeks, right?
The android gestures to a hollow receptacle in the desk where, at one point, apparently some kind of terminal was installed, but now there's nothing but loose wires sticking out. After it finishes gesturing at the receptacle, it gives a very clumsy bow and says, "Please be aware that unauthorized personnel who proceed beyond this point will be subjected to disciplinary measures. Have a nice day, and remember, Kartel makers, a glimpse of tomorrow." The red LEDs flicker and die, and the android slumps over the counter.
Oh yeah,
tomorrow. We're not authorized.
You can sort that out, can't you?
Yeah,
you did that for Axie.
You can try, Azure, except where that terminal was, there's nothing but several fiber optic cables jutting out of a hole in the desk with severed, frayed ends. There's probably still a connection to some sort of server down there, but the interface has been ripped out.
For question, Dale.
Yep.
Can I take my head off and use that to connect it?
Very clever. I would say ordinarily you can't, but you do have that nano power that essentially breaks your body down into dust, at which point it'd be pretty simple for someone to just lift your TV head up and connect it to those wires if you wanted to do that.
If everyone else is okay with it.
Sounds a little terrifying.
You just like pull it off, or do I need to grab crowbar, or...
You just see Charlie just disintegrating, leaving behind the monitor.
Jeez.
Go ahead, roll a presence check for me, Charlie.
And Charlie never reformed.
That would really
Can I
be
just ask who is calming Frank down?
13.
I would say... Yeah,
because he just
probably
saw
not far
Charlie
behind
melt.
him.
Frank is losing his shit. He just saw
Wait,
Charlie
Frank, it's okay.
melt.
I've seen this before. He's
gonna turn towards the android, and he's raising his cricket bat to destroy it.
Frank, it was intentional. They did it on purpose.
They
Don't hit
meant
the
to
help.
kill Charlie. He sounds even angrier.
Charlie's okay. Charlie is okay.
Yeah, the last thing Frank's aware of is Charlie just looking down at the hole and saying, "Oh, good thing we brought our own interface," and then instantly, without any sound or fanfare, Charlie's body just disintegrates. It breaks down into individual ash-like particles, and the TV head just loudly clatters to the floor. Frank raises the cricket bat over the android in a rage as Azure reaches her hand out and calls, "No!" And Frank, I'd like you to make a presence check for me, please. Just a straight presence check.
9.
9. still holding the cricket bat above your head. You're about to bring it down when Azure and PU simultaneously shout for you to stop, and in the moment you realize Charlie's not dead at all, as Azure takes the TV off the ground and you can still see Charlie's smiley face gleaming on its monitor, winking at you as it's lowered down over the receptacle. Feeling some of your rage beginning to subside, Frank, you lower the cricket bat, but as you do so, fragment of memory stirs somewhere in the depths of your memory banks. The same desk, the same android, but cleaner, intact. The android's gleaming brass plates, freshly polished, as it looks up at you and says, "Welcome, Dr. White. Please log in at the terminal there." And then, instantly, you're back in the present and everyone else sees Frank falter. You see his fingers twitch as for a split second he nearly drops the cricket bat, nearly lets it slide through his lax fingers before he composes himself, stands firm and steps back from the android.
Frank
I know,
looks
Frank,
around.
it is a little scary when Charlie does that, but it's okay.
Where's the other guy?
The android? Which other guy?
Frank is looking around the room.
Why the fuck did the bot call you doctor? You're not one of those soap-loving scum, are you?
That thing just told Dr. White to register. Where's Dr. White?
No one else in the room, and no sign of anyone befitting the description of Doctor. No crazy sawbones hacking people up here. And PU, you find yourself sighing, breathing a sigh of relief. For a moment, Frank almost had you believing a doctor was about to pounce on you, that maybe Patton had sent you into a trap, had sent you into that long overdue checkup.
You shudders at the thought of antibiotics.
Azure slides the TV over the receptacle, kneels down and uses Charlie's multi-tool to connect some of the fiber optic cables to the bottom of the television. Instantly, the smiley face on the screen is replaced with an archaic computer operating system, a login interface for Kartel Maker's employees. It asks for a username and a password, but Azure, you've never needed such things. Exactly.
I suppose this is the same thing with keys, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't need one of them when you got PU, and you definitely don't need a username or a password when you've got Azure. So as you unsling your cyber deck and worm the cable into the slot on the side of Charlie's head where his RCD would normally be. Go ahead, Frank.
Frank just says / root beer 39.
He even goes so far as being about to type it in until Azure brushes his hands away and says, No, Frank, we don't need
I don't think there's a keyboard, is there?
Well, yeah. It's a touch. It's a touch interface. Yeah, your cyberdeck is the keyboard. And
I'm not going to punch Charlie in the face. I mean...
Maybe it's a touchscreen.
Azure brushes...
Please don't punch me.
Yeah, please don't punch Charlie. Azure brushes Frank's beefy fingers away and says, I think the keys are maybe a bit too delicate for you, Frank. Better leave me to it. And go ahead, Azure, and make me a knowledge technology check. Unless you can think of any of your apps that would apply here, in which case I'll let you not roll.
I don't think any of them apply, so I'll roll. That'll be a 17.
17, nice. The computer architecture is archaic, several generations out of date, and you have to employ Frank's handy little connector at one point to make sure one particular cable stays in place and actually manages to connect to whatever mainframe down below it's retrieving data from. There's not really anything in the way of meaningful intrusion countermeasures. Sure, they're there, but they're so out of date that they essentially don't recognize you or your cyber deck as intruders at all. Instead, you're gliding through cyberspace as an unseen alien entity, and when you reach the data node in the middle, it's fairly simple to cook up some accounts for you and your friends, making the computer believe that you've always worked here, and indeed you're the ones who are coming to do the scheduled inventory and maintenance.
Like stealing candy from a baby.
As you're about to leave, though, you notice that, as you suspected, while this facility doesn't appear to connect to the city-wide web, this old terminal appears to be connected to a mainframe that's part of this facility at the very least. There's something of a building-wide, self-contained miniature network still running here, seemingly untouched for years, and through this node you could conceivably get access to all sorts of things: security, surveillance, utilities. Perhaps you could even find a way to unlock the bunker to save yourself and your friends several hours of tediously searching the tiny little warehouse.
That would be awfully handy. Can I find any kind of map as well of what we have
Definitely
in
a
front
good
of us?
idea. Go ahead and make me a knowledge technology check, please.
22. I'm assuming I'm not under pressure the last couple rolls.
No, you can add I'm in.
Easy. Yeah, that's 22.
22. So it's fairly easy to slip past the initial data node, and once you learn how to pass the scrambled archaic data streams, it's very easy to make sense of them and follow the packets from one node to the next. Your first stop is security, to turn off any lingering security devices that might be waiting to ambush you once you enter the bunker itself. This archaic system doesn't tell you exactly what the security is. There's no in-depth controls, no friend or foe recognition, nothing like that. It's a simple binary on or off switch. You flick it to off and then move on to the next, the utilities node. Most of the functions in the utilities node are blanked out, black, lifeless orbs hanging in the grey, empty expanse of cyberspace. Turned off for the moment as the utilities node loudly exclaims to you that the facility's running on emergency power, auxiliary power, and most of its functions have been taken offline. You make a mental note that to find the generator room or some source of power once you get into the bunker and get it up and running again, at least if you're to make use of this place. And then finally, before you return to meat space, you scrounge through the parts of the utility node that are activated, the data that's lit up that you can actually manipulate, make use of, the things that are still hanging on, clinging to life with the auxiliary power, and then you see what you're looking for. You smile to yourself and rip the cable out of Charlie's head as you're dropped back into meat space, and a blueprint of the bunker underground, directly beneath your feet, under this little warehouse, pops up on everyone's REDs. And I will, of course, display it in Owlbear Rodeo.
There we go. Now we can see what we're up against.
The bunker isn't really that big. It's marginally bigger than the little concrete building you're currently occupying, but it doesn't seem to extend beyond the boundaries of the block of land upon which it's situated. It's small enough that getting through it, conducting an effective and exhausting sweep shouldn't take too long, but on the other hand, it's still big enough that you'll probably have to decide where your priorities lie. As Azure flourishes to the rest of you and a love heart appears on her screen as the blueprint pops into view, you all hear a great rumbling from somewhere beneath your feet. You whirl around and peer into the back of the warehouse where you see 2 concrete slabs in the floor sliding away, revealing a narrow staircase that descends down into darkness, into the bunker.
Shower block. That sounds great.
He stops his taste testing of the different varieties of dust that happen to be in the room and takes attention to the bunker that's opened up. Well done, Chromie. Good work as always.
That said, PU, there is a room on the map marked as shower block, and...
Oh, I'm blowing that up.
Please don't. Please don't. I haven't had one in weeks.
You turn your attention to Charlie. Azure lifts the TV off the desk and walks over to the pile of ash behind the counter just as soundlessly and suddenly as before, it reconstitutes, reforming into Charlie's body. Narrow humanoid physique under a thick brown trench coat, and you slides the TV into the little socket at the top of the neck.
Oh,
Sorry. But Frank is gonna walk over and pick up Charlie.
Give him a big hug.
No. He's just gonna let go. He just picked him up. Just hold it on.
Okay. What the fuck happened, I guess?
Do I need to get, super glue to put you back together at some point, or...?
It's fine, don't worry about it. It's fine. Charlie's wiggling in his arms.
Wiggling, trying to look like he's struggling, but after a while you see Charlie relax and just sort of sink into Frank's bulky frame. It's clear, Charlie, that Frank's not letting you go, so you decide to stop fighting and let Frank guide you from behind the counter as he slowly walks you to the staircase that leads down into pitch black darkness. The staircase is not very wide. It's a rickety, rusty, corrugated iron staircase set into a concrete shaft that's just barely wide enough for Frank to fit through. There's no hope of you descending in any way other than single file.
We all have torches on our RCDs.
You sure do.
Is there any possibility? Okay, so is there any possibility of Frank going first? Because he can do so with the spotlight, and he will put Charlie down and behind him if he's going to go first. But it also means that if there's any area where we have a dodgy floor, Frank will fall through before you guys get hurt.
Maybe
there shouldn't be any more turrets trying to kill us in down here, so...
Yeah, but maybe before we send the guy with, lumens equivalent to the sun and maybe not too many brain cells still connected together up front, because, he turns around and we're all out for the count. Piyu did pick himself up a vision visor, so he does have night vision now.
He does, yes.
Okay.
So maybe...
you volunteering to go first?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be the worst idea. You can all hold Piyu's hand. It's terrifying. I thought that is.
Nothing.
Daisy chain each other.
It's okay. I'll hold Piyu's hand. I lived in the junkyard all my life, so.
Yeah, this is not particularly scary or confronting to Charlie or to Frank or Piyu or to either of you really, but you all understand now After all your adventures, the danger that can be posed in simply heading down a shaft without checking what's at the bottom first. So PU
check for water.
slides... Check for water. Yeah, place could be flooded. Check for mines is probably what PU's thinking. As PU reaches up and slides like a pair of sunglasses, a deep black visor over his eyes, presses a button on the side of it with the tip of his finger, and a little red light blinks on. PU, your night vision amplifies the ambient light that exists in this tiny cramped room and magnifies it by 100 times. You peer down into the narrow, deep, dark stairwell, and as you do, I'd like you to go ahead and make me a presence check, please. You may add +2 if you have perception or survival.
That I do not. That's going to be an 11.
An 11. So the staircase itself appears to be relatively safe. It looks a bit rickety. You're not exactly sure if it will support Frank's weight on his own, let alone the weight of all four of you at the same time. But there aren't any traps, and there's certainly no landmines at the bottom landing. However, with your night vision, you do see something unusual. Just barely visible at the base of the stairs. What looks like a sticky black tar-like substance pooled in various tiny splotches, each one about the size of the palm of your hand, just scattered haphazardly, painting the grey concrete.
Hugh isn't sure if he's if he needs to be cautious or he needs to be excited at the fact that there may be filth unknown to him that he's able to explore. So he raises a hand up over his shoulder and says, "Oh, I see something wacky, weird. I'm gonna poke it."
Dangerous?
It doesn't
What
have
kind of wacky?
splotches, mold, mildew, maybe even growths. Who knows?
There are small things that can hurt you.
This whole germ theory thing is bullshit. Come on.
Yeah, and they give you ice powers sometimes.
And so PU carefully descends the staircase. When he reaches the bottom, he looks over his shoulder at the rest of you watching from the top, and you can see behind his deep black visors the gleam in his eyes, the smile on his face, as he begins to kneel down and examine the black tar-like splotches on the floor. PU, are you going to go so far as to stick your finger in a splotch, lick it off the end, and hope that your iron jaws and digestive system are able to weather the task?
Is it moving? Is a better question first.
Well, as you kneel down, PU, and peer at the splotches, you don't think you see them moving. At least not in a way that would suggest that they're alive. However,
What's this icky paint like goop?
as you look closer, as you move your face closer and your nose hangs about an inch above one of the pools, you think you see the surface bubble shift in anticipation.
And it matches, I assume, the black goo that I found at the end of my lockpick?
Sure does.
It's bubbling? He's gonna dip a tip of his pinky in and give it a little taste test.
You do have the iron jaws, so go ahead and make me a toughness check, and you may make it with +2.
Oh, fantastic. That's +3 total. Let's see what we get. Oh, call that a 21 total.
Nice.
Do you have the survival proficiency, PU?
Not a chance.
You don't, so you don't get a bonus, but you do get something cool regardless of that 21. You can't resist. You dip your finger in it, and as you do, you feel something within the goop squirm, shift, scuttle, and as you withdraw your finger, it's almost like the goop is clinging to your skin, and furthermore, it's no longer liquidy. You peer down at your lockpick and see that the black stuff on the tip of your finger now has the same consistency, sticky, tar-like, almost powder, not liquid, and then you can't resist. You open your mouth wide, dip your finger in, and lick.
He's moving it around his teeth, his steel teeth with his tongue. There's loud smackings coming from the end of the stairway.
Question for you, PU. Would you know what feces tastes like?
Do you really have to ask?
You burp heartily. In spite of what it looked like, in spite of its squirming and the ominous black, it tasted alright. Tasted like street filth, that bizarre mixture of feces, urine, sweat, and rotten meat. And as you peer down at what's left of it on the floor, your best guess is that this is the dung of some bizarre, possibly nano-infected animal.
Yeah, I'm getting a raccoon, cat, a little bit of that ox. Oh, we might have something happening down here, guys. We might have
You
a
put it in your mouth?
yeah. How else am I gonna test it?
The good news is that the stairwell appears to be safe, so as disgusted as you all are with PU,
Just follow.
who's going to go next?
I'll come down.
So here's the question. Will you let Azure head down the stairs on her own, or will either Charlie or Frank follow? Will the three of you move together?
How rickety do these stairs look?
Put it this way, Azure, as you put your foot down on the very first step, the whole shaft seems to shake and waver around you.
I might suggest one at a time, folks.
Can I ask if I can send Rusty with her?
Yeah, you sure can. Just in case.
Would
So-
you like to
Just
take
step.
Rusty?
Yeah, what's your step, though? Just in case.
Bark, bark, says the dog eagerly as he places his front paw on the steps and begins to scramble down them ahead of Azure. Azure
dog.
follows carefully behind, whispering, good dog, as she goes. And Azure, just when you reach the halfway point of the staircase, you hear a great metallic groan and swear as the step directly under your feet sags and snaps under your weight. You're about to slide through the gap into the darkness below when Charlie barks. Bark, bark, growl, whirls around on the spot and leaps towards you, determined to save you. Charlie, go ahead, make me a knowledge technology check to see if you can pilot Rusty fast enough to save Azure a nasty fall and possibly a sprained ankle.
I'm going to use a glitch to re-roll that.
You sure
What did you
can.
roll?
I rolled a 4,
Oh yeah.
so they actually rolled me a dirty 20.
Dirty 20.
Nice.
Nice. Azure, you feel yourself beginning to fall. The metal platform under your feet collapses and it looks for all the world as if you're about to fall into the darkness when suddenly you feel Rusty's teeth digging into your upper arm. At first, the pain is horrible, searing through your body, and then you feel the force of the mechanical dog pulling with all his might. The front of your body is painfully scraped against the staircase as finally Rusty extricates you from the gap. He relents, releasing his teeth from your flesh, and you collapse to your feet, gasping.
Good dog. Thank you. Ow.
You stop for a moment to peer down into the gap. It descends down into darkness, seemingly forever. That can't be the case. Somewhere down there's a concrete floor underneath the staircase, but you're looking at least a 15, 20-foot drop. It certainly would have hurt. You quickly scramble down the rest of the staircase and join PU at the bottom.
I think we need to replace the staircase.
A finger is already halfway extended out to Azor. We
No.
might have to get some rat traps or something. Maybe something a little bit bigger. The piles are pretty big around here.
Oh, jeez.
Rusty wags his tail. It's the mechanical propeller in his body sends it from left to right so fast that it doesn't look like he's wagging his tail. It looks like his tail is now just permanently in the shape of a blurry semicircle, moving so fast you don't even see the motion. He's clearly happy that Azure has been spared torment and pain, and then he peers up the staircase expectantly at his master and barks, "Bark! Bark! 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 Bark!"
I was expecting mice down here, but these might be of unusual size.
This close to ground zero, it's on the other side of the river, and the place has been abandoned for nearly a decade. Instantly, Azure, an image floods into your mind of a rat the size of a car, and you shudder. So, Charlie, Frank, who's next?
Question: can I
Yep.
use Rusty to reinforce the steps?
You
before we
sure
come
can.
Down? Because I know Frank is a little heavier than I am.
You sure can. You pull out the control panel, peer down at Charlie, nod, and peer down at Rusty, nod, press the button. He scampers up the steps to the part in the middle, the part where Azure nearly fell, the part where it would be structurally the weakest, and you watch as the multi-tool pokes out of his mouth and he leans over, mechanically tightening some of the screws. He continues at this work for 5-10 minutes, and then finally he bounds up the stairs and rejoins you, his tail still wagging, the stairs now reinforced. You thank him, pat him behind the ears, and make your way down the stairs, and they still shake, they still move, they still groan, but it doesn't look like they're gonna break, at least not for you, Charlie. And that just leaves Frank.
Sorry about the bite, Azure.
Oh, no. Saved me from probably worse.
Frank is going to send Spot down.
Yeah, your drone. Go ahead then, Frank. Go ahead and make me a presence check, and you may add +2 for either perception or survival.
So it's only going to be -2. Got it.
Well, actually, make it -1, because this is a fairly, tight place. There's not a lot of places where Spot's going to have trouble seeing things.
As it is flying down, it unfortunately convinces at least some of my party members that it is a bat and has got caught in their hair. I have rolled a 1.
You've rolled a 1. Would you
Ooh.
like to glitch that?
It was a dirty one.
Dirty 1. Would you like to glitch it?
Cat, I hear a cat.
Okay.
No, no, I'm not going to waste a glitch.
You to take the 1. Yep. You upload you unload Spot. He zooms out of your coat, flitters down the stairwell, and once he reaches the bottom, all 3 of your friends immediately brandish their weapons, and PU shouts, "Ah, more of those bat things!" and swings his crowbar in the air at Spot. Spot swerves out of the way and finds himself having to crawl along the underside of the ceiling. Everyone loses sight of the gleaming dragonfly surveillance drone, and Frank, even you're unsure of where you've sent him, but he's seeing something. He's sending a feed right into your RCD. somewhere, a room in darkness with red eyes gleaming. Spot creeps slightly closer, and then something moves in the darkness. A thin, skin-coloured, putrid-looking canine head, like a dog that's drowned and has been left to fester underwater, stirs in the darkness, opens its mouth and reveals its long, sharp, blood-stained teeth. And then Spot immediately lets out a scream of terror and flits away into the darkness. The feed cuts out Frank, and he doesn't return. You have no idea where he is.
Frank is going to bellow coming through, and he's going to drop down.
Pew, hearing the last time you heard that sort of cry from Frank, Frank came straight through the wall of a cafe. So Pew is diving to get like as close to the wall as he can to be out of Frank's way.
Frank is going to guess which direction. He's going to turn. The two little headlights are going to pop out, and he's going to turn them on both at about 500 or 600 lumens. So very bright flashlights, but no way bubbling skin.
So Frank, as you hurtle down the stairs, jumping when you reach the halfway point, clearing the bottom half of the stairs, and as you land at the bottom and the whole bunker seems to shudder with the impact, you have two choices. You can head left or right. Which way do you think Spot went?
He's gonna think he went right.
Right.
In other words, where I put Frank is where Frank has moved himself because he's thinking that direction.
Yeah. So you're all standing in a very narrow, very dirty, but otherwise featureless concrete corridor. There's no markings on the wall, no numbers, no insignias, no arrows, no directions, just putrid grey concrete covered in the same black tar-like substance that litters the floor. And the first thing you see of the bunker is when Frank whirls around, points in the direction of what's listed as the bunk room on your map, and the little compartment on the back of his head opens, the headlight slides out and turns on just in time for you all to see, at the end of the hallway, the bunk room. The decrepit, rusted frames of 3 sets of bunk beds, and leaping out from between them, charging towards the source of the light, 3 huge, furless, swollen, drowned-looking dogs as they growl. Black tar-like saliva drips from their teeth, flecking on the floor. And Frank, you see Spot. He's cowering underneath one of the bunk beds. Frank, go ahead and roll initiative for me. Make an agility check.
Friends of Rusty's, Charlie? Pew says, pulling his guns from his belt.
Not those ones.
They look more like how I'd imagine your pets to be. Pew?
I mostly just keep head lice, he says, scratching his head.
I believe.
I'm afraid I got a 5.
5. Well, that's okay, because none of you were expecting this. Usually when Frank turns on the high beams, whoever's on the receiving end finds their nervous system blasted with sensory information, doesn't know what to do, but these vicious canines, these gene-wrapped, mutilated, nano-infested wargs are angry, and they just charge at the source of the disturbance. But they are charging towards the light, so I will give them penalties. Seeing Frank, the first one there, the first warg bounds forwards, bends its hind legs in a very unnatural way, the back of the leg seeming to snap at a 90-degree angle running parallel with the floor as it lets out a growl, and its eyes gleam bright red as it leaps into the air. Frank, go ahead and make me a defense check, and you may roll it with advantage.
If I could just point out, because honesty compels, I was, the lights are on dim, so they are no more than a car headlight.
So yeah. Well, that'd still be enough to distract them, I'd say. At least this first round, go ahead and roll with advantage on your defense check.
Okay,
Sounds like Rex is protesting.
a 16. A 16 plus, I don't know what else.
16 plus or minus your agility.
Oh, so 17.
Nice. The first warg flies through the air and you swing your cricket bat, thwack, knocking it out of the sky. It hisses with pain as it falls to the ground. And then the second warg, hanging back in the edge of the bunk room, charges forwards towards you. Go ahead, make another.
16.
16, nice. The second warg gnashes its teeth, running towards you. You kick out with one of your legs, hitting it in the side, hearing the crack of bone as it yelps and falls backwards. While you were defending yourself from the first two wargs, the third one screams right past you and sets its sights on the person directly behind you, which would be Azure. Azure, an exclamation mark appears on your mask as you see the hulking beast charge right past Frank as he's kicking one of the others out of the path in front of him, and it gnashes its teeth as it leaps towards you. Go ahead and make an agility roll for me.
And do. That's a 12.
12. So I'd like you to do a strength test for me, please.
Oh boy, strength is not my greatest.
You may add +2 if you have athletics or acrobatics.
I do not. 13.
13. Well, you passed that, but
Fantastic.
as the huge swollen dog gets up on its hind legs and throws the full weight of its body on you, you're knocked off your feet. You feel the dog's hot, putrid, stinking breath. You feel the heat of its breath. You smell the stench of death and decay as it sinks its fangs into your arm, dealing 6 points of damage once you subtract your armor.
Oh, armor. Yes, armor. Armor. Oh, crap. What's my armor? I think it's a D4.
I think it is, yep. The dog gives a congested growl, trying to pull you to the ground, to ravage you, to rip you to pieces, but you jab it with the corner of your cyber deck, knocking it off you, and scramble back up to your feet after... How much damage are you taking after all that?
How much was that before
That
armor?
was 6 points before armor.
Right. And I take 3 damage.
3
Oh,
damage,
3 on the
nice.
D4.
And then, Frank, you're up.
Well, I know that I can trust that PU is going to turn the one that hurt our friend into a pile of mush, because it has placed itself there. So Frank is going to clobber one of the dogs with the bat, and he's going to grab the other one by the scruff of the neck and electroshock it. Can I do that?
Nice. You sure can, but since you're doing 2 actions, you'll have a penalty on each one.
Yeah, he doesn't think very tactically. That's not his role, so he'll
That's
have
fine. He usually gets lucky. So as you stride towards the first one and raise your cricket bat, go ahead and roll me a strength check. I will be
6.
increasing the DR to 14.
Oh, well, he got a 16.
16, nice. Thwack! The words, "How's that?" come from somewhere inside the folds of Frank's cloak as the cricket bat sends the dog flying down the hallway. How much damage will that be?
8.
8?
I don't know what I add to the D8.
Your strength.
Oh, then that's 11.
11, nice. Subtract 2 from that for the dog's armor. It's fur and hard, swollen skin absorb 2 points of damage, but it's flung off its feet, sent flying down the corridor. When it finally rights itself, it just looks at you, its eyes gleaming with hatred, ready to redouble for another attack. With that one out of the way, you whirl around and begin running towards the other one, reaching out your hands, ready to bury them in its fur. Go ahead and make me another strength check, and the DR will be 14 for this one too.
Well, that's a dirty 20.
Dirty 20, nice. The dog gnashes its teeth, trying to bite you, but you dodge out of the way, elbowing it in the face as you press your palms onto its ragged, waterlogged fur and push it up against the concrete wall, sending every volt your cyberware will muster into its frame. The dog lets out a sickened yelp and chokes as bubbling black goo begins to pour from its mouth, from its ears, from its eyes, from its backside, and then its skin ruptures and yet more black tar-like goo begins to bubble out as the electricity fries whatever waterlogged organs remain in this creature's body and instantly destroy it. And then, Azure, you're up.
Alright, there's 2 more up still.
2 more up.
How... Is there a Frank between me and them?
There is a Frank between you and one of them, but there is the other one just in front of you that you've just kicked off. Yeah.
Alright, I probably should not be jacking into my computer to do anything. So I'm gonna pull out this mono sword that I have.
Have you been studying the blade?
Not really. Let's try.
Go ahead, make me a strength check.
That's a 2.
2. Would you like to glitch that?
Sure, why not? Bit of a waste of a glitch, I'm sure. That's a waste of a glitch.
No good?
No good. No good.
You want another one?
I'm not sure it's worth it. My strength is not amazing.
Yeah, we'll just let it lie. So, you perform a complicated movement that you've seen one of the protagonists in your favorite shonen anime do with their katana and miss the dog.
Wall.
Yeah, you miss the dog by about a foot and your mono sword just cling hits the concrete wall
so much
and
easier in the
bounces
anime.
off. But I will say this, you looked cool doing it.
Did I?
It looked like you missed on purpose. As you step away, re-shoulder the blade, and narrow your eyes, ready to strike again. No one would ever think that you're incompetent.
Hoping no one saw it.
And then, Charlie, you're up.
Can't really do much. So
Unload your shotgun into the one that Azure tried to hit.
In the small, tight hallway.
I don't think it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it will be pretty hard.
So
Or you
I'm
could just
going to
really
go
bad at
send
swords.
Rusty in. Send Rusty in.
Send Rusty in, sick your dog on that dog. Go ahead, make me a knowledge technology check.
Usually I have to pay to watch the dog fights.
That was a dirty 20 again.
Grr, says Rusty as he charges forwards. The warg is still righting itself after dodging Azure's very well telegraphed attack, and it's not ready when Rusty leaps forward, slamming into the side of its body, bowling it over, and sinking his razor teeth into its threadbare skin, tearing it, making black goo spray out in a shower over Rusty's face. You hear him cough and splutter as the viscous goo seems to fuse his mouth shut, and he leaps off the dog, charging down the corridor to get away. But he still does damage. Go ahead and roll for him.
3.
3 points of damage, and the warg's armor will subtract 2. Alright, PU, you're up.
PU steps up next to Azure, flashes her a smile, and says, "Don't bring a knife to a gunfight." Before he raises his smart guns to unleash them.
They don't have guns.
Time to send these dogs to the farm up north. I'm gonna go ahead and roll to hit the first one with a auto fire.
Go ahead.
That would be plus agility. I'm not using any of my bonuses, so I believe. Yep, it's just going to be a 11 for the first one.
11. You get it in your sights. The heads-up display tells you it's locked on. You see the wire frame appear around the warg's body, target its head and fire, and the bullets ring out just as Frank readies his cricket bat to strike the warg in front of him, shifting the trajectory of that warg ever so slightly. The bullets slide over its back. A hair's length, a hair's width away from striking the warg's body, but just missing.
Shit, Frank, keep him still! I'm going to go ahead and then use my second attack. I believe I can do.
You sure can.
That's going to be much more successful than 15, I'm sure. For the
Definitely.
First hit.
Go ahead, roll the damage.
I will go ahead and be using dual wielder. So a single attack test for both and combine the damage rolled. He's going to go ahead and take 6 points of damage from me.
6 points of damage. Nice. You aim past Frank, taking the time to line up your shot, and when you hear your smart gun beep, signaling that it's locked on, you fire. The gunshots echo in the tiny, cramped corridor, and the warg goes down in a hail of gunfire, not even having the time to let out a yelp of pain.
Shifting the gun slightly, I'm going to continue the fire down the hallway at the wall in front of
go ahead.
That's going to be a 18 to hit.
18 to hit. That's a hit. Go ahead, roll the damage.
He's going to take 4 points of damage.
4 points of damage. Nice. You peel off a few rounds and they slide into his unnaturally bent leg, knocking him off his feet. His armor subtracts 2 points, and that's your turn, PU, because you missed your auto fire before.
Oh, on the second attack, I only get 2 auto fire hits?
Well, you didn't tell me you were auto firing for the second
apologies.
attack. Yeah.
Well, then I should have only had the first hit.
Yeah. So next round, you can go all auto fire if you want, but I assumed you auto fired on the first and it missed, so then you tried a normal attack for the second.
I should have clarified. I meant to auto fire, but that's fine.
The last dog that's left scrambles to its feet. It growls, and yet more black sludge laps onto the concrete floor as it scans the corridor ahead of it, trying to decide who's the most dangerous. It sees PU lining up a shot with his gun and charges forwards, pouncing at him. Go ahead, Frank.
Frank is not letting it it's in a narrow corridor. He's not narrow. He's not gonna let it go past him. If I can have a roll to stop it.
Yeah, you sure can. Go ahead, Frank. Make me an agility check to stick yourself right between PU and this abomination.
11. Can I glitch it?
You sure can glitch it.
Make it a 15.
15, nice.
Except that it's gonna bite me.
It is gonna bite you, but you're in the way. But that's not bad, because this might actually kill it. Because as PU readies to scramble for cover, Frank, instantly in a rage, steps forwards, holds out his arms, making himself a making himself a shield of meat and metal between the warg and PU, and the warg's teeth sink right into Frank's torso. Frank, you take 5 points of damage before you subtract armor.
Okay.
Which I believe your armor is 2. Would you like me to roll that for you?
No, I can do that.
Yep.
I only subtract 1, and I have basically my armor is 2 to 3
Yes.
because I have 2 different things. So I
You do.
reduce 2, so I take 3
Yep.
damage.
3 points of damage, and then you do have your subdermal shockers. So go ahead, roll d4 to see how much damage it takes as it bites you.
2.
Ooh, nice. It sinks its teeth in, but not very far before you feel that familiar sense of the electricity surging underneath your skin. The dog yelps, and there's a loud crack as it's flung violently off your body and ends up in a heap on the floor at your feet. And now you're up, Frank.
Frank is going to leap on it and hold it down. I assume it's dead anyway. And he said, I'm holding it still.
Holding it still. Go ahead, make a strength check for me.
Dirty 20.
Dirty 20.
21.
Just as you did before, as the beast begins to move, as it starts to rise to its feet, you throw yourself on top of it, burying your palms in the folds of its soft, slimy, putrid skin. It begins to scream in terror as its back leg pops, and black goo begins to spray out of the orifice left behind. It struggles feebly, lets out a choked cry, and ceases to move.
Well, Frank is going to look over at PU and he said, you told me to hold it still, to keep it still.
You did good, Frank. Now, Pew raises the gun. Pull!
Go ahead, PU, roll for your ammo, and anyone who was hurt may go ahead and roll 1d4 to get some health back.
E4.
Ah, lovely.
Not 3.
I actually didn't have to reload for once. Let's go.
Yeah, well,
Amazing.
to be fair, you were trying to be careful in this narrow corridor and didn't exhaust your entire clip. But now, you're standing there in the hallway with these 3 warg corpses.
Wait. No, I did have to reload 1. I forgot. My bad.
Ah, yes. Well, as PU slides another clip into his gun, you all peer over at the corpses of the wargs, and before your very eyes, they seem to be rapidly breaking down. The skin deteriorates, turning ashen and grey, turning into powder, leaving the bones underneath, which rapidly crumble, until all that's left are yet more puddles of faintly sizzling black tar-like goop.
Well, that makes it a bit easier to clean up.
Pew raises an eyebrow, looks over at Azor, and is already leaning forward with another finger towards the goo piles.
No. Is that wise?
What's a wise?
Fair point.
Do the goo piles taste the same?
If you're going to try another one, go ahead, make me a toughness check, add +1 because of your infrastructure.
Let's see how this goes. Not bad again, a 16.
16. You've
This is
given...
why people have spicy food, isn't it?
Yeah, you
Same
give it...
thing.
Same thing, in fact, very appropriate here, because PU, as it goes down, you feel the insides of your throat burn in pain. But it goes down well enough. You let out another hearty, satisfied burp. The difference between this and the other one is that this one's clearly fresher. The pungent taste, much more overpowering. The stench, much more pungent. A normal man would have probably instantly shriveled up and died as soon as this stuff touched his stomach.
So what you're saying is it's a lot like blue cheese.
Yeah.
I was about to make a similar joke.
Well,
It's not as finely aged as the other one. You ever leave those little packets of cheese and crackers out just to get it nice and festering before you get at it? It's
No.
like eating it. What? Oh,
No, I never do that.
Frank just steps ahead. He begins walking down the corridor into the bunk room, and Frank, as soon as you enter the bunk room, Spot's eyes gleam at you from the shadows underneath one of the bunk beds, and instantly his wings whirring, terrified, he zooms out, flits towards you, and buries himself in the folds of your cloak.
and I'm calming him down and apologizing for sending him flying in this place.
His wings seem to buzz slightly slower as he calms down, and then eventually he crawls into his little niche in your inner
Little
pocket,
nook. Yep.
in his little nook, and seems to be happy that he's safe again, at the very least. The rest of you finally approach Frank, and as you emerge in the bunk room, you pass by another iron door set into the northernmost wall. There's nothing in the way of labeling or any sort of lettering, but your map marks this as the rec room. The door is shut, there are no sounds or any signs of life from behind it. The bunk room is in a state of disarray. Only the frames of the bunk beds are left. There are no mattresses, no upholstery. There's a single chest of drawers pushed against the southernmost wall, and a quick search of it reveals that it's completely empty. To the north of here is the shower block, hidden behind yet another rusty metal door. But on the south end of the bunk room is a doorless archway, which according to your map leads into the warehouse/storeroom. The door is wide open, broken on its hinges, half off the wall and half on the floor, and there's a thick trail of yet more viscous black goo leading from the edge of the bunk room into the darkness of the warehouse beyond.
I suspect this leads round to the utility room, and if we want to get some lights going, that's probably where we can find a generator. But we might have some more dogs on the way.
you sure we can't just, attach some jumper cables to Frank's nipples and get him to shuck it right?
I mean, just temporarily, sure. But I think we want a more permanent solution for lights.
So,
Frank, where is the big guy, anyways? Swear it's just here.
Frank is, well, you peer at the door into the warehouse and you see that the darkness beyond the door is actually Frank's silhouette, blocking anything beyond the door from view.
What do you see, big guy?
Frank, you have the perception ability, so I'll let you see without a roll. As you step over the broken door into the storeroom, you see yet more of those putrid, swollen dogs. At least 6, maybe even 7 of them. But their eyes aren't gleaming red in the darkness. In fact, they don't appear to be moving at all. All of the dogs are curled up, snoring loudly, their bodies rumbling, vibrating with each throaty breath with each throaty, raspy breath they take. The storeroom itself appears to be quite heavily loaded with rows upon rows of collapsible metal shelves, and all of the shelf space is covered in non-perishable foods, cans and boxes, all with faded labels.
Frank is going to send a text to everybody's internal HUD saying, there are 6 more of the giant skinless rat monsters sleeping in here. Does anybody have a flechette grenade?
Piu reaches down to his pants hem, and unfortunately his grenade pocket has recently run dry. So he's not packing any heat at the moment.
Nothing like
One
that.
normal hand grenade.
A hand grenade might do some damage. It's not guaranteed to kill all of them, though.
There are boxes of supplies,
Ooh.
but there are 6 of these animals. What do you guys want to do?
Electric
want
trap at
to-
the door.
Oh, there's the shower block there. Maybe we could turn on the water, have it flood into the room, and Frank does a little zapping?
That's an interesting idea.
Charlie's
You
the one
see
who...
some complex numbers
Yep.
come across the internal HUD as a complex formula what has to do with diffusion of amperage over a volume of water with the calculated volume of what you're talking about, indicating that it actually wouldn't be all that significant in a room this size with the amount of amperage that he could produce.
Frank gets
And
a
you
single
have
message
no
back.
idea where he's from.
The single reply from PU is a misspelled nerd.
While you're talking about this, Charlie moves towards the shower block, and you hear a metal creak as he pushes the door open, just enough to peer inside. And sure enough, Charlie, it doesn't appear the plan would work, as of the 4 shower heads you can see in the shower block, 3 of them are broken, and the 4th one is so utterly flecked and rust it appears to be fused to the wall.
Thank God they're unusable.
We can fix it. Look, Pu, I won't make you use them, but I would like to.
PU is scratching his scraggly metal chin, and he looks back at Frank and just pulls up his 2 guns and shrugs.
Frank is gonna send a text saying, well, I think Charlie said that they have a grenade, and then I can just stand in the door and not let any of the dogs get to you guys.
But the cans! A reply comes back. I want to see what really old food tastes like!
Think of all that decade-old food!
Exactly.
I'm sure most of it will survive. And it'll have extra flavor after we blow it up.
These dogs weren't bad after all.
Why don't we just put some wires at the door and just have them run into the wires?
Start
Then
with
like
the
a
grenade.
razor wire?
Or set up the wires, then chuck a grenade in, then the others come out, get tripped up by whatever wires we put
Frank
at the
can
front, and then
electrocute
we
the wires as well.
deal with the rest as they get back. 3-stage
Seems
plan.
like a solid
Easy.
plan.
And PU can clean up what's left of them.
Well, in that
In a way
case...
that only Pu can.
In that case, I would ask Charlie to go ahead and make me a knowledge, either technology or insight check, to get some wires running across the doorway, set them up so that Frank can get a current flowing, and make sure the trap is actually able to function.
A 12.
12. So, Charlie, you look around the bunk room and the shower block. There are several power outlets in the bunk room, probably for lamps or personal belongings, but in the shower block, there's a big appliance embedded into the southernmost wall. Faded lettering reads Super Dryer 2000. It's one of those old blow dryers from before, from the before times, from before Ground Zero, before before Psy even existed, where essentially it would just blast you with supercharged hot air to dry your hands. These old-fashioned ones actually have quite a bit of power in them, so you unscrew the panel and begin to run a spool of wire from the cleaning device, from the dryer, all the way across the bunk room and lay it over the door that leads to the warehouse. Now all Frank has to do, if he wishes, is to head into the shower block, press his hands up against the dryer, and send the voltage through, ready to fry anyone who crosses over that wire.
If that's what they tell me to do, then that is exactly what Frank is going to do.
You're aware of Azure calling your name and Charlie beckoning. You squeeze through the narrow door into the shower block and look down at the nest of live wires that Charlie has unearthed deep in the drying machine. And then once more, you prime your subdermal shockers, and I will ask before you do this, if you do this, your subdermal shockers will be out of charge for the rest of the session.
Okay. And can I sweet talk Spot to move? Actually, we need to have icons for Charlie and Spot.
We do. I will add them at some... I will add them. Let me see. Let me get some. Let's get... For now, we'll have this little eye for Spot, and we'll have this dog for Rusty.
Sounds ideal. Thank you. Can I go ahead and have Spot just take up a position to eyeball for me so that he can see the room with the trap? All right.
The little dragonfly flits out, and at first, when he sees yet more of those dogs in the storeroom, he hesitates in the doorway, his wings uncertainly hovering in place, and you give him a nod and a thumbs up, encouraging him to press on, and he disappears into the darkness, and you watch through your feed as he parks himself up on the underside of the ceiling, giving him a good view of most of the sleeping monsters below. And then, as Azure, her hands safe in rubber gloves, lays the live wires over the doorway, Charlie creeps forwards, peers into the darkness, and primes a grenade. Go ahead, Charlie, roll a D3 for me. And while you're... 3, nice. You pull the fuse on the grenade, hold it for half a second, and then lob it over the live wire into the pitch black storeroom. Second passes, then another, and then the grenade goes off. For a split second, the storeroom is lit in vibrant orange light from the explosion, and then 3 of the dogs yelp as the force of the explosion flings them against one of the shelves. You hear a cacophony that is one of the shelves toppling over, the cans and boxes scattering willy-nilly. The 3 dogs that avoided the explosion, however, immediately jump to their feet, let out hungry growls, and begin to charge towards the open doorway, towards the ambient light where they now smell intruders.
Charlie is running away from that bloody door.
He sure is. He's getting back just as Azure steps back as well. And Frank, you see Spot's vision. You watch as through Spot's compound eyes, the 3 wargs charge forwards towards the door, and they'll be reaching it in about half a second.
Yep, well, the moment he can see, he's going to activate.
Let's go ahead, Frank. Make me a toughness check. Add +2 if you have survival. Just to see if you can withstand all of this electricity surging out of your body all at once.
I'm gonna glitch it, because 2 is a really lousy roll.
Definitely.
That would be a 24.
24, nice. You grip the nest of wires and once again feel that familiar feeling. The subdermal shockers discharge their last volts of stored electricity and you unleash everything your body has. For a second that feels like eternity, your hands are fused to the wall as your body becomes nothing more than a conduit for the massive surge of energy. Frank, you take 2 points of damage as the electricity singes the tips of your fingers, bypassing your armor, but the good news is that the wires that Azure laid over the warehouse entrance instantly light up with live electricity, and as the first dog runs forwards, there's a spark, there's a yelp as the dog is flung back. The other 2 dogs, oblivious to the concept of electricity, press forwards. There's another zap, zzz, and then a loud as the live wires explode. Another sickening...
I always loved watching bug zappers.
It's like a bug zapper writ large. You hear an explosion, another yelp, and then there's the smell of roasting flesh emanating from the storeroom. A big plume of black smoke settling around you in the bunk room.
Freshly cooked meat, anyone?
The little dragonfly Spot zooms out of the room, away from the loud explosion, and the next thing you know, Frank is Spot's sliding back into his little nook as you pull your hands away from the unit, peer down at your palms, and see rather nasty-looking scorch marks there. And as you see those scorch marks, Frank, you feel something well up, something in the pit of your stomach as the recesses of your memory banks flood your senses with another fragment of memory. You're peering down at your hands, still scorched, but they're not cyborg hands. They're the wrinkled, fleshy hands of a human being. The tips of your fingers are charred black. You look up and see a young man with thick spectacles, long, wiry red hair, and a white lab coat with the Kartel Makers logo embossed on his pocket. He looks up at you smiling, and he says, "Good job, Dr. White. We've got the voltage we need to make it work. I think once we've worked out the kinks, I think we'll have solved the problem of how to keep him powered." And then, with a thunk, you feel your body land once again violently in the here and now, Frank. Everyone else.
I'm under the impression that there are still 3 more of the dogs. So
Yeah.
if he has time, he's going to reoccupy and become a door again. But
Yeah.
my guess is that he does not have time.
As you come charging out, you see the thick plume of black smoke. You smell the seared flesh. Azure and Charlie and PU look over at you, and PU flashes you a thumbs up. A job well done.
Does he get to the door in time to not allow the dogs to go through, or not? That's what I just didn't know.
There are no dogs left alive to get through the door.
Really?
Oh, I thought there were 6. Oh,
Yep.
right.
3 were taken out by the
and
grenade.
then 3 with the traps.
Yeah.
Well done,
All right.
everyone.
Well, he's there looking at smoke, and he says,
Executed.
"I'll hold it when they start coming."
I think I think they've gone to the farm, Frank. We're all set for the moment. Look, kitty.
Under Charlie's coat, Rex is loudly meowing, disturbed by all the explosions and bangs and sizzles.
There's no room in here called the farm. I think I got the wrong file.
You got them, Frank. They're dead. Don't stress. Piu says, patting the big guy on the back as he tries to squeeze past him to get into the warehouse room. And he's trying to shimmy past the big guy. Come on, Frank. No,
Did you want a piggyback? I'll give you a piggyback. Pick him up, put him on my back like a piggyback.
And carry him into the warehouse.
The top of Piu's mohawk is scraping the roof as they go.
Oh, come on, let's be fair. It's your head that's probably getting smacked against the ceiling on a regular basis.
Fair. But thankfully, Piu's scalp is oily enough that it's more so sliding along.
Oh, yeah, how are you managing to rip on his back? Most of his back is metal. You're clinging onto oiled metal now.
PU is so encrusted in filth that he kind of just sticks to things.
Oh, okay. Good to know. It's like Velcro, biological Velcro.
Oh my god.
And so as Frank carries PU into the warehouse and Azure and Charlie follow behind, the warehouse is quite large. It's obviously the largest room in this bunker, and it's quite clearly stocked with enough supplies to, in theory, last whoever bunkered down here at least a decade without having to return to the surface, with Frank's headlight providing some means of piercing the darkness. You're able to tell that most of the things stocking the shelves are, as you expected, non-perishable foods. Cans, boxes, powdered milk, powdered eggs. By the standards of anyone living in the early 21st century, all of this stuff would be awful, disgusting, bland, lacking in nutrition, but to all of you gutter punks from Psy, all of this food is real, genuine shit. Some of these brands have been out of business for a long time. That can over there on the shelf that advertises real tomatoes, you've never even heard of tomatoes.
Piu had already pulled himself a can away from the wall, peeled the can open with his strong jaw, and was sniffing at the can while inspecting the label. Tomatoes? Ugh, it smells...
Tomatoes?
smells fresh! Ugh. Pio tips out the can on the floor and decides to chew down on the can itself instead.
Rusty sniffs at some of the boxes and cans, and he looks back at you, Rusty, hangs his head, and he says, "Whimper, clearly not too comfortable with the novelty of this very real, very old food."
I'm just gonna throw him some wires.
You reach into your pocket, pull out a handful of the wires you took out of the drying machine and toss them on the floor, and he gives you a look that clearly says, "That's more like it," as he messily and loudly devours them, much in the same way a living dog would devour a plate of spaghetti. With all
At
the
least
mess.
I might make use of some of this.
Meanwhile, P.U., your iron jaws bite straight through the can of tomatoes. Something acidic and vaguely fruity goes down your throat, and you're not... At first you find it deeply, deeply unpleasant. This isn't real food. It can't be. Do people actually eat stuff like this? But the aftertaste... It's not too bad, and you soon find yourself taking another bite and another, and before you know it, you've completely emptied the can, and what's more, you feel satisfied, you feel full, you feel energized and nourished like you've never been nourished before. At least until you peer down at your chest and see the tomato juice there, deep red, and it looks just like blood.
Oh shit! Is this it? Is this it for great old PU? Nope, just
No,
acid
I don't
reflux.
Oh,
PU and Frank, well, unfortunately, Frank neglects to ask if PU wanted to, go into the utility room.
The utility.
Because I think PU is probably still stuck to his back like the Velcro
Yeah.
thing.
I will say though, as Frank continues moving through the shelves with PU on his back and PU still curiously examining all the food, PU, you still have your night vision thing on, I believe?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead and make me a presence check. +2 if you have perception.
Sure. Ooh, call that a 7.
7? Would you like to glitch that?
No, we'll take it straight. See how that treats us.
probably
Your
very
eyes, your eyes drift along the shelves, trying to read the faded labels, trying to make sense of words such as beans, carrots, corn, things you've never heard of before. And as
Bam.
Frank, yes, spam. Well, you all know what that is. You get enough of that in your inboxes, but you didn't know it came in cans.
How did they get the candy out of the corn?
As Frank rounds the corner and begins carrying you down the long, narrow corridor that, according to your map, leads to the utility room, although all you can see is yet another unmarked, featureless metal door, you miss the thing in the darkened back corner of the storeroom. The big, grand-looking wooden crate with the Kartel Makers logo on it, and the faded stamped warning that says, "Authorized personnel only, experimental cyberware."
Ooh.
Unfortunately, though, you don't notice that, and before you know it, you're standing in front of the door to the utility room, still clinging to Frank's back, with Azure and Charlie slowly bringing up the rear behind you. This is apparently the utility room, although there's no way to tell. There's no markings. You can't hear anything from beyond that metal door. But just like the entrance to the bunker itself up on the surface, this metal door has a little circular hole just above, just the right shape and width for a turret to poke its barrel out, should it need to.
He's gonna peel himself off of Frank's back. I assume there's a keyhole there.
There is no keyhole as you understand it, PU. Instead, there's a series of little grooves under the handle for some sort of old-fashioned punch card system.
You making sure not to get too close to the door with that turret hole right above the door itself. Yeah, some mechanical punch lock system. It doesn't fit a key.
With the stuff that I turned off upstairs, how confident am I that this turret is not going to activate on us suddenly?
Say, given it was a binary on-off switch, you're pretty confident that this turret will not emerge. However, it does occur to you that if there's anything hiding in the utility room, bashing through the door would still alert them.
I'll relay that.
With the assurance that it's probably safe with the 500 rounds per minute those things can
At
put
least
out.
from that.
Piu will take what he can and try to go at the punch system with his mechanical lockpick.
Yeah, go ahead and roll for me.
I believe this falls under thievery.
Yep, this would fall under your thievery.
Fantastic. Well, that's a nice little 12 with my bonuses.
Lovely.
So, not a problem.
You jiggle the tip of your tar-encrusted lockpick into the gap until finally you feel something give, and then you watch as the door clicks and opens just an inch, revealing yet more pitch-black darkness on the other side.
Is that darkness alleviated by my night vision?
It sure is, if you'd like to peer through the gap in the door.
Maybe a gentle peek through as Pew's beaky nose curls around the edge of the door.
It's your agility, PU.
+4? I don't like that question, though.
And you
Best
do
question
have
to hear.
you do have the stealth proficiency, I believe.
I do.
Yeah, so you're able to peek through the crack in the door without making any noise, pushing the door open ever so slightly more, just enough to wedge your head into the gap and peer into the utility room. The first thing you see is a big old-fashioned industrial power generator that takes up the majority of the room, a big hulking behemoth right in the center. That's what you've come looking for. Then you see the other thing in the room. The thing that's been set on standby, waiting for 7.5 years for intruders to finally arrive. Like the android in the reception room above, nothing much is left of it save for the dark black humanoid skeleton, the circuit boards and wires dangling off. Except this android holds in its left hand a long, sharp iron spike, and in its other hand a military-grade assault rifle. And it stands at the very back of the room, its eyes gleaming red as it slowly sweeps for signs of intruders.
Pew's long beaky nose is going to pull back through the door and turn back to the rest of the group and tap into his RCD. Big Robo.
Big Robo. And everyone else sees it too. That same skeletal security robot watching, waiting for you. Or at least PU's best approximation of it. Looks more like a child's stick drawing, but you get the idea. Something dangerous waits behind that door.
Now,
Didn't we mark ourselves in the security system as not being a threat?
You did turn it off, but you don't know if this thing counts. The turrets certainly don't seem to regard you as a threat, but I would say, with your knowledge of machines, Charlie, it would seem possible to you that this android is acting independently. It's not technically part of the security system. It was probably given its own orders to stop and wait and scan for intruders, and that those have nothing to do with the security system in place in the mainframe.
Now, I've been saving something for us guys with my glitches and my abilities in consideration. We could kick down this door, and I think we might just be able to fucking slam this thing if PU gets the drop on it.
If not?
Well, bury PU in a very dirty corner?
Charlie's just gonna go, I am hurt. I'm going to walk down the hallway in case this plan doesn't work.
Yeah, Charlie heads back down the hallway into the storeroom and takes cover behind one of the shelves, the tip of his TV screen peeking around apprehensively to see what happens next.
Few messages through to make sure that Frank knows what the plan is. Saying
Frank,
that he's...
Frank explains that he was listening to some music, and he's not sure what's the plan.
He
We're gonna
messages through to
add
Frank.
extra rooms, clean the place out, maybe some sheetrock.
Pew waves to Azor to take cover just in case of stray bullets. And then he messages through to Frank. I'm going to shoot. You need to open the door for me when I message you go.
Okay.
And then readying his guns and loading in an armor-piercing booster into both, Pew will then tap through go to Frank.
And what do you do, Frank? Charge through the door?
Yep.
Frank looks over at PU, nods, he rises and charges through the door, ramming into it so hard that it nearly breaks off its hinges. The tiny room is filled with a cacophonous roar as the android jumps to attention, raising its gun. And as it sees you charge through the door, Frank, it raises its rifle right at you. Its eyes gleam bright red, and it tightens its finger on the trigger, and then... Negative. Parameters do not define as suitable target. Protect, protect Kartel employees. Protect Dr. White. Dr. White, get down! Shouts the android as it raises its gun, taking aim at PU just over your shoulder.
Stand down. That is an order.
Oof.
You hear Frank say these words, and this is not Frank. This is someone with authority, someone projecting their influence.
I did break him. What did I do?
Frank, go ahead and make a presence check for me, and add +2 because of your intimidate.
Feel free to use all my glitches.
I don't have intimidate.
Ah, you don't have intimidate. Well, just
Yeah,
presence.
we kept thinking we really should get it, and he never did.
But
He got headlights.
as you order it to stand down, Frank, what does it sound like? Because it's quite clear this is not Frank's voice.
Well, it sounds like Frank is going to go around asking if he can borrow somebody's glitches, because he has a 5, and
Feel free to use all of mine.
Well, actually, Frank, what is your presence?
-2.
And what is your toughness?
Oh, that would be +3.
As Frank opens his mouth and an order comes out in a voice that is very much not his own, go ahead and swap your presence and your toughness just for this roll.
Oh, okay. Well, that would then mean that I'm on a 10.
10.
Is this the same voice that would have come through when I was poking
Yeah.
in your head?
Yeah, Azure, you recognize it. It's the firm voice of a man who's in the middle of very important work and doesn't want to be disturbed. It's not the calm, friendly Forrest Gump / Lenny from Of Mice and Men voice that you usually get from Frank. And Frank, with your 10, the android hesitates for just a moment. Just
If
long
I
enough...
use a glitch, that would then make it a 14.
Do you want to use a glitch?
If Charlie is sure, I will. Yes.
It peers over at you, its red eyes gleaming. And then it shakes its head. Negative. I am not authorized to receive orders from Dr. White. Dr. White is to be protected. Direct orders from Kartel administration only. Get down! But you've distracted it for just long enough that PU's able to get into position, get his smart gun loaded up and lock on. So go ahead, PU. Roll me your attack and you may add +1 to the roll.
I have been waiting to use this combination of my abilities. So let's see if this doesn't turn out. And I've saved all 3 of my glitches for this. Let's see if this doesn't work out. We're going to go ahead and use the first glitch to reroll that. That was not great. Okay, much better. So that is a 21 total for the attack.
That's a hit. Go ahead, roll the damage.
I'm going to be using dual wielder. And then I'm going to go ahead and use a glitch to do max damage with dual wielder.
Yeah.
And as I said before, I've loaded an armor-piercing booster. So, it's going to do the maximum damage for dual wielder, which is 20 damage, with ignoring a d6 of armor, I believe it is.
Yes. So,
Yes.
the android shakes its head, sadly. Negative, it repeats. Negative, Dr. White, you do not have sufficient authorization. Get down! And as it raises its gun and once again begins to tighten its trigger, you draw your own. You wait for the telltale beep telling you it's locked on, and then you fire, spraying the room with everything you've got. How much damage was that?
So, being a max damage, I am auto-firing.
Yep.
Being a max damage, the first auto-fire hit with the dual wielder, it is doing 20 damage because of the 2d10s, ignoring 5 points of armor.
Your bullets slam into the android's body, shattering its cyber ribcage, circuitry and wires break off. Its left arm, the one grasping the nasty-looking iron spike, snaps off and clatters to the floor, and you keep the barrage coming. Bang, 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 bang! Giving it everything you've got. Bullets pound the android's body, chipping into its metal exoskeleton until finally it screams as it's blasted off its feet. It lies on the ground, motionless. And for a second, you think you've won, PU, until the voice booms out, "Rerouting emergency power!" And the red LED eyes blink back on, and with a great clunk, the android pulls itself back up to its feet, preparing to fight back.
Oh, for the love of creds! And he's just gonna empty out his ammo on this dude. Am I able to continue that auto fire?
You sure can.
Alrighty, let's see if that doesn't continue. 19 to hit on the second attack.
That's a hit. Roll the damage.
Fantastic. Gonna take another 5 points of damage.
Very nice. It takes 1 point of damage, however, as its armor absorbs most of them.
Oh, yikes. And then my last hit for this auto fire is going to be a 17 to hit.
17 to hit, that's a hit.
Fantastic. That's going to go ahead and do 7 points of damage.
7 points of damage. Subtracted down to 3.
Oh my god.
The last... Your next few rounds don't seem to be having the effect that your first barrage did. You're running low on ammo now, and you're trying to pick your shots a little more carefully. You snipe at a circuit board here, a loose wire there, blasting them off, but the android continues walking towards you with purpose, raising its gun, its eyes gleaming. It once again shouts, "Get down, Dr. White!"
With one gun petering out, am I able to use my second attack with auto fire at DR14 to hit?
You sure are.
Oof. I don't like how much health this thing has. I'm gonna go ahead and pop an armor-piercing booster on this attack as well.
Very nice.
I'm gonna have to use my last glitch to re-roll that, I think.
You can use mine if you want to.
If you're happy to pass it.
Yeah.
Alright, we'll re-roll that, because that was only an 8 to hit. We need DR14. That's a 8 plus a 4. That's a 12. I'm going to go ahead and use my glitch to make that a -4 DR.
-4 DR.
Alrighty. So he is going to get hit. He's going to take... Let's here. He's gonna take 5 points of damage, ignoring 1 point of armor.
Very nice. He takes all of that damage because he only rolled 1 on his armor.
Fantastic. The auto fire will continue. I forced that hit.
Your bullets shred what's left of his chest plate, revealing another bare circuit board underneath, gleaming with green and red lights.
19 to hit on the next auto fire attack.
Go ahead.
Please die! Oh my god! He's gonna take 2 points of damage.
His armor absorbs 1 point of that.
Oh my god. And then my last auto fire attack is not going to hit with a 9.
Yeah, but he's looking pretty threadbare. At this point, most of what's left of his outer casing has been blasted away. You're looking at the bare exoskeleton. Most of his inner workings are visible and vulnerable. So we'll see. You're up next, Azure. What would you like to do?
Well, what can I see from here? I can just see, like, PU just shooting into something.
You can see, like, Frank standing in the doorway and PU, like, leaning over around his arm, aiming at something. In the little flashes of gunfire, you can see something vaguely humanoid shaped in the room beyond, and with all the mechanical sounds and the voice constantly saying in the same monotone, "Get down, Dr. White," you're pretty certain that it's some kind of android. It does count as a chromed up enemy.
Has Frank gone yet?
Frank's action was to try to tell it to stand down, which
right.
did help PU get a drop on it.
I don't think I've got anything directly for dealing with androids.
Guess you could always just hex it if you've got nothing else.
Yeah, that would help, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, roll your app check for me.
Yeah. That is. I rolled 2. I shouldn't roll 2.
Probably not.
I am under pressure. I have another glitch. I'm going to use that. That's a natural 1.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
You'll definitely want to avoid that with this enemy.
I got a 12.
Well,
that's all my glitches.
That's all you need. That's enough to get the app going. You're hugging the wall, trying to not present any kind of target to whoever's firing from within the room. You move just enough to set up your cyber deck and smash the enter key on the keyboard. You hear the whirring of mechanical joints from the room as your app comes into effect, and the android starts wildly flailing his arms, shooting at random as the hex takes hold, and he begins to lose control over his own body. And then, Rusty, you're up.
I'm sending Rusty in, so...
Ah, yes. You're sending Rusty in, so go ahead, roll me a knowledge technology check.
21.
21, nice. Bark, 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 bark. Rusty goes charging down the hallway, his metallic paws rattling on the concrete, and as the android flails around, firing wildly, Charlie pounces on it, pinning it to the ground and ripping a handful of wires out of its torso. Go ahead and roll damage for me.
Max.
Max damage, 6 points of damage, very nice. Plus, how much do we get from the hex?
Just 1.
Just 1, nice. Eventually, it bats the butt of its gun at Rusty, knocking him off, and scrambles to its feet, but as it lurches forwards, you see it's unsteady, its gun shaking, its eyes growing fainter, beginning to flicker, and then it's its turn. It raises the assault rifle and once more shouts, Get down, Dr. White! But this time the voice is spotty, broken. Get down, Dr. White! And thunk! The assault rifle sends a grenade flying through the doorway into the corridor. I'm going to roll. And that's a 3. The grenade gets its maximum yield. And
Can Frank try and slap the grenade or catch it, since it's between him and his friends and where it's going?
You sure can. Make me an agility roll. Add +2 if you have acrobatics or athletics.
May I have a glitch, Charlie?
If you got any
Yeah, you
left.
can have one. It's not. It's my last one though.
Oh,
That would be a dirty 20.
Dirty 20,
We're
nice.
all out of glitches.
He has caught the grenade.
Frank rushes forwards, and as the grenade flies through the room, Frank snatches out his hand and clunk, catches it. The android, seeing what it's done, begins to violently hiss and spurt. No, Dr. White, parameters failed. And then the circuitry in its head explodes. Steam flies out of its ears as its logic folds in on itself and it slumps forwards, clattering to the ground, just as the hand grenade goes off in Frank's hands. Frank, I'm going to make you take all the damage for the grenade in place of everyone else.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so, Frank, you are taking... Let's see. 3d6 worth of... Frank, you take 11 points of damage before armor.
Shit.
The armor... Oh, I stop all 3, so that is only 8 points of damage.
8 points of damage. The grenade explodes, and you all see Frank just stagger backwards. But he doesn't fall over. Good riddance, he says, tossing the spent grenade cartridge to the floor, and whirls around, revealing to you all that he's perfectly fine, though the front of his coat is quite very horribly singed.
I still have 14 hit points. Thank you so much for the glitch, Charlie.
PU is
Android
breathing
scammy.
heavily after that. He is breathing. He's like his trigger finger is tightly wound around the triggers, and he's surprised that thing didn't just drop after that barrage.
Oh, that went well.
About as well as it could have, I guess.
You finally step into the utility room, or rather, what's left of it after that grenade explosion. There are scorch marks on the... Go ahead.
Do you know who Dr. White is?
Good question.
I didn't quite hear what you said, sorry. Could you repeat that?
Do you know who Dr. White is?
Do you think you could... Charlie, do you think you can fix Baker here?
Beaker?
His
Huh?
name is
Sorry.
Baker.
The android that we just shot?
Uh-huh.
You know the bot?
Did you just name him now?
No, that's his name.
How do you know his name, Frank?
What do you mean?
Frank, roll me a presence check quickly, and once again you can swap your toughness and your presence for this one if you like.
Yeah, well, he's gonna succeed regardless, so I'll go ahead and have a glorious success. It's a 23 or 22.
You all watch as Frank pensively stares down at the destroyed android. Frank, in your head, click, another fragment of memory unlocks, flooding your memory banks. You see the android, Beaker, but he's not broken, destroyed on the floor. He's shining, gleaming, brand new, fresh off the production line. He salutes and he says, "It's a pleasure to serve, Dr. White."
Can I, in this moment of still having my lucidity or memory, can I safely extract his identity matrix and pull out his personality core?
You sure can. You step forwards and it's as if your hands are being guided by something else, someone else. The rest of you watch as Frank kneels over this android, expertly detaches the panel at the back of his head and slides a little computer chip out of a receptacle. It's especially astounding to you, Charlie and Azure, that Frank knows how to open the android's memory shaft, extract its CPU without damaging the frame so easily, so deftly, so carefully. And Frank, when you finally got it done, you look down at the little computer chip in your hands.
Bo, I'm very quickly handing it to Azure or Charlie, who's ever near me.
Yeah.
Because he's
take
going to
it,
know
but
that
kind
he's
of-
not going to be here long, and this is Beaker. And
I'll
he's
take it wordlessly and kind of look towards Charlie and just question mark appears on my face.
This
And you
is
shrug.
This is Beaker, says Frank firmly as he lowers the chip carefully into your hands, Azure. And Frank, as soon as the chip leaves your fingers and drops into Azure's hands, it's gone. You have no idea what you've just done.
Yep.
The computer chip is just a computer chip, and the android at your feet is just an android. Broken, destroyed, useless.
Isn't there
Right.
supposed to be like a utility stuff in here, like a generator?
Indeed. You're all in the room now, and you can all see the big, hulking industrial generator that takes up most of the room. This bunker has been abandoned for about 7.5 years, but based on this generator, the make and model of it, the fact that all the labels are faded, the fact that it seems to be more mechanical than digital, this thing looks to be about 80, 90, maybe even 100 years old. This is old technology built to last. And there's no doubt in any of your minds that you can get it working again. You just need to figure out how.
Shit, Frank, this thing could be your grandpa.
Come on, DG, I gotta be able to respond to that one.
You sure
Can I
can
have a
if you
roll?
want. Yeah, go ahead. Make me another presence roll.
Ah.
How much
he
did you
failed
get?
it.
I will
He
give
failed
you.
it.
I'll give you something anyway. Even though you failed, you won't get a lot of context, but you'll get some.
Can I just say one sentence to him?
Yeah, go.
Son, not grandpa.
What the fuck is up? You really fucked him up, Azure.
I just, yeah, clearly.
I don't like Frank being lucid. It's fucking weird.
You don't like Frank not being Frank.
I don't want to go back in there. I might break something worse.
There's a fragment of memory deep in Frank's memory banks that almost resurfaced just now. A fragment of him standing, staring at the same generator, bright, new, gleaming, as that young man with spectacles and frizzled red hair looks up and says, "Wow, Dr. Wright, this thing's so old it could be your grandpa." And Dr. Wright simply says, "No, you idiot, I'm not that old. And nor is this thing. Like, I'd say you and this generator here are about the same age, or at least according to my records. After the modifications I've made to it, of course, it barely counts as a Power Source V2693 Model A anymore." back in the here and now, you're all very confused, but you have one priority, and that's to get this generator on. And Azure, once the generator's on, you want to get Frank under a proverbial microscope as quick as you can.
Once I can confirm how safe this place is to the outside
Indeed.
network.
Oh, we also don't have any glitches. That makes me a bit scared.
Yeah, well, luckily, you only seem to have the control room left.
Okay.
Well, let's have a look at this generator.
Yeah. So, Azure and Charlie, you can both go ahead and make knowledge checks, because there's a little bit of Azure's expertise here and a little bit of Charlie's.
Well, mine's useless, so
Can I use my mechanics with it?
You sure can, add +2.
I'm going to put that dice into jail.
15.
15. And how'd you do, Azure? you don't have any glitches. 4. Yeah, Azure, you're just staring over. You're trying to look for a screen.
Analog. I can't stand analog.
You can't stand analog. You're trying to find a screen or a keyboard or a jack-in point.
Into
There's nothing, and you see a little
tech.
You see a little plaque on the underside on one edge of the machine that appears to be instructions, but they've faded away after decades of misuse. You look over at Charlie shrugging, and Charlie, you recognize this as exactly what it is. You have one just like this in the junkyard you've been slumming it in. Except the one in your junkyard hasn't worked in about 50 years, but you've taken it apart so many times, studied it, repurposed bits and pieces of it, stripped it of all its wires and cogwheels and circuitry so that Rusty's had at least several years' worth of food out of it. And you've developed a keen knowledge of the inner workings of this machine. It doesn't appear to be broken, Charlie. Rather, it's just been turned off so as to conserve power, and all you have to do is flip open a panel on the front and get it started again. But with these old generators, that's sometimes easier said than done. You look down at the little panel, Charlie, that you've revealed. You've slid away a piece of the metal casing, and you're peering down into what looks like a maze of live wires and cogwheels with several different multicolored levers. Each of the levers has a word describing what it does, but most of them are faded. Only one of them is still slightly legible. A green-colored lever, and the word reads recycle. There's a blue lever and a red lever. Both of them have faded labels.
Do I remember anything from my old... The one that I had originally?
Yeah, well, with your role, I would say that you understand the word recycle to mean that this is the lever that controls the energy recycling. It's customary with these old devices every now and then to recycle to hit the recycle function to purge them of any energy that's left stored up. Usually when you're moving them from location to location, you purge them of any static electricity through the recycle function so that you can get them started again with minimal fuss. So that rules out the green lever, leaving only the blue and the red. Peering down at them, the blue one appears to be attached to a series of wires that lead into the machine itself beyond the casing. The red lever appears to be attached to a long, hollow metal tube that leads to what looks like a fuel tank on the underside of the generator.
Ah, shit. I'm just gonna look around and be like, help, anyone?
Charlie tells you what he knows, what he's figured out so far, but he's never had a working one of these. He doesn't actually know what the next step is. Red lever or blue lever?
If I take a look with some inspiration from Charlie, can I get
Can?
anything?
Yep. I'll let you roll again, knowledge, and you may add +2 with either technology or insight.
I really
both.
feel
I'll
like
use
we need to
technology.
purge it first before
Nat 20.
trying to turn it on.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I got nat 20.
Nat
Oh, well
20.
done.
Based on the fact that the red lever appears to be indirectly connected to a fuel tank, Azure, you think that that's the lever to flush the fuel, leaving the blue one as the only remaining option to turn it on. The only question being, as Charlie mentioned, should you purge it first? Should you hit the recycle function?
Good question.
Because when you're like unplugging like a computer, you don't want to turn it back on until you know that it's completely purged. You also don't want to take anything out or put anything into it.
Yeah, very keen observation from Charlie there.
Maybe it's a good idea to purge it and turn it on then.
So, who's game enough to do it?
I guess I will.
So, Charlie, as you kneel down over the lever, I'd like you to make me a presence check, and you may add +2 if you have either perception or investigate.
I do not have either.
So go ahead, just a straight presence check.
13 again.
13. There's a little metal placard just above the array of levers. The words are mostly faded, but you can make out exactly 3. When recycling, 20 feet. And then there's an image of a little stick figure with a lightning bolt striking his head.
You guys may want to get out of this room.
Step back.
Step back out of the utility room, Frank, P, you, and Azure. But then that means
I think we know that Frank doesn't behave that well.
Yeah, I think Frank just stands firm exactly where he is, because if Charlie's here, then Charlie's in danger, and that means Frank's here too. It's all well and good to tell the others to leave the room, Charlie, but how are you going to vent the electricity without putting yourself in danger?
You could tie a rope to it. Does anyone have a rope?
Or paracord?
Paracord rope.
I have paracord.
Frank holds out a length of paracord, at least 30 feet long.
And I got power cords too.
I'll take those for a snack later if you don't mind.
Right.
No.
Rusty's
It's real hard to recharge if I don't got no cords.
Probably best not to use the cables. Just paracord is good.
I mean, I can try and, take a shot at it from down the hallway. Maybe it flicks it over.
Okay, I'm going to tie the paracord onto the lever and then slowly walk out of the room.
Yep. Beckoning for Frank to follow, and Frank, as you see Charlie laying the paracord down the hallway behind him, you follow him out of the room, lamenting that this paracord has been a loyal friend, and it's probably about to be utterly destroyed. When you're a safe distance away, Charlie yanks the end of the paracord, and the lever is pulled from up to down. Several sparks fly out of the panel, bathing the spot where Charlie was only seconds ago with live electricity. There's a deep metallic groan that emanates from the generator as several arcs of lightning extend from it, surging into the air around it, where they quickly dissipate.
So I should delete the paracord?
Yep. The paracord is, well, The end that Charlie's holding in his hand is fine, but Frank, as you edge back into the room, you find the other end of the paracord completely incinerated, and there's a long, thin trail of black ash leading from the generator panel through the doorway and about halfway up the hall.
Sorry, Frank.
That's okay. Frank very grudgingly hands over his power cord
No,
to Charlie.
you take your power cord. You need your power cord.
You said you wanted it.
I was going to eat it and feed it to Rusty, but it's okay.
But if you need it,
No, we have cables. You're fine. You take your power cord. Let's just go flush the fuel and then turn the machine on.
Rusty hangs his head sadly as Frank stows the power cords back into his coat.
it's a very, very,
What about-
very, very high spec power cord.
What about the cables we used to trap the dogs?
We don't. I
Melted.
didn't want to use a electric power cord for anything that deals with electricity.
You can't
Fair.
trust Rusty with that. So Charlie confidently strides forwards, and now that the static energy's been purged, all he has to do is grab the blue lever and pull it down. And as soon as he does so, the generator lets out a great lurch, and the machinery starts up, and a few seconds later, it's loudly humming. And as soon as it's up and running, it's as if the bunker was wrenched from the depths of the earth and flung to the surface of the sun. All of the lights in the bunker simultaneously turn on, these harsh, fluorescent underground lights immediately illuminating every inch of the entire facility. You hear the sounds of several other machines whirring to life in the concrete walls and in the further recesses of the complex.
It's
Bright in
it's
here.
weird having lights that don't buzz. We need to get those replaced.
Yeah, not a single one seems to be flickering.
Oh, but Frank's doing enough of that for us.
And so, Azure, now that the power's back on, it seems to you that the place to be is the control room.
Yeah, gotta check the rest of this out and make sure it's all clear before we can do anything. Go poking in people's minds again.
And so Azure motions for you all to follow. You make your way back through the now brightly lit storeroom, through the bunk room, back down the central hallway. And now that the lights are on, the bunker seems far less foreboding, far less dangerous. The black tar-like stains left by the wargs aren't nearly as prevalent as you thought they were. It looks like a few days of elbow grease and you should have the place spick and span, clean and just like new.
Let's get a power washer.
You return back to the staircase that leads up to the surface and pass beyond it towards the control room. At the end of it, there's another corridor. It heads two ways, north to the control room, and here, unlike anywhere else in the bunker, there's big gleaming yellow letters stamped into the concrete wall that reads control room, leaving no mistake as to what this is. And then to the south, at the very end of the corridor, a set of thick metal double doors, much like the ones on the surface, secure, that seemingly lead out into the city's sewer network. You breathe a sigh of relief when you realize that they're closed and barred from this side, a thick metal rod running lengthways across the door. No one can get in from the opposite side, and as long as you're in here, you have complete control over whether that route is locked or unlocked.
Could be a convenient way in and out, still.
Still, your orders were to clean out the bunker, not gallivant around in the sewers.
Plus, if we need to, air out the place, let in a little sewer gas, freshen up that way.
Big sigh.
You want me to go into the control room and make sure it's okay?
We might just poke our heads in. PU, do you want to check if it's locked at all?
Yeah, fuck it.
As you approach the metal door that leads to the control room, something beeps, and then with a whoosh, the door slides open. Once again, you see a little circular hole at the top of the door, and this time, with the lights on, you can see the turret, much smaller caliber than the one on the surface. There's a green light that blinks as you pass underneath it as it registers you an ally.
He lowers his hunched shoulders and casually swings his smart pistol on his fingers as he checks through the rest of the doorway there and pushes into the room, clearing it with his smart gun's muzzle.
Yeah. You sweep your gaze across the control room and breathe a sigh of relief as you find it empty of threats. Most of the control room's taken up by a big hulking mainframe, and there's a control panel on the southern wall with a bank of monitors. This is what excites you the most, PU. Neither of you saw any security cameras or anything of the like as you made your way through the bunker, and yet here's this bank of monitors. You can see every angle of each of the rooms you've been in so far, and at least the bottom row of monitors seems to be showing a cycling series of camera angles showcasing the sewer network outside.
Oh.
And the parking lot on the surface.
Look, Axe's on the TV!
Are there also not a whole lot of blank monitors waiting for the rest of the complex to be finished?
Well, none of them appear to be blank. They're all up and running now that the power is
But I mean that
gone.
there are some channels that have yet to be allocated.
Ah, yes, yeah. There are a couple here and there that haven't yet been calibrated, but it appears before the bunker was shut down, most of the infrastructure was pretty much completed, and, well, as you all set your eyes upon the bank of monitors, you realize that as long as you keep this place up and running, and as long as you make sure someone's keeping watch, it would be almost impossible for anyone to sneak up on you without you knowing, and even if they did manage to get into the bunker, you've got a secret entrance out into the sewers that you could use to escape. Or to come...
I can probably set up some kind of visual alert system that will notify me if anything is detected on these.
Yeah, you make yourself comfortable sliding into the chair in front of the control panel, looking up at the monitors as you plug your cyber deck into the jack-in port. And go ahead, roll me a knowledge check, and there is no time pressure.
I'll be a clean 19.
Clean 19. You take a quick dive into the security system, checking each and every camera. You tie them directly to your own RCD and install some of your own security software. Whenever any motion is detected on any of the cameras, you should get a ping on your RCD. There is one question, however. In order to do this, you have to reroute some of the processing power from the mainframe. This mainframe's old, and it's only just been turned on. It's actually pretty limited in processing power. In order to set up your security software and make it so that you'll get an instant alert should anyone be spotted on the cameras, you will have to power down at least one part of the facility. And the choices, the most obvious ones that are available to you are the interior turrets, the climate control, the cameras for the surface, or the cameras for the sewers?
Oh boy. I don't want to shut down any of those.
If you'd
As
like
we know,
to...
in underground space, climate control is quite important. for airflow and
Definitely.
such.
You glance over your shoulder at PU, and you're quite sure even he would eventually notice as the temperature rose and rose and rose until you all eventually suffocated from the stale air. The air conditioning is important, and so is everything else, so I'll allow you, if you would like to keep everything up and running, to instead have a compromise, and that is... You can set up your security software to run at a lower priority than everything else. It should work as intended, but there is a small chance, very small, that it may fail to ping you, to alert you to a threat.
There is probably a third option.
Oh?
You could have them on rotation. So, say if we're not in the base, you can have the
That's fair. Yeah.
cameras
And
off.
sort of switch off the climate control and turn on the security.
Or if we're not in the base, you turn off the climate control and you just keep the cameras on. Or if we're out, you turn off the climate control and keep on the turrets. But when we're in there, we turn off the turrets because you don't really need the turrets if we're inside because you'll get alerted.
Yeah.
I think turn the turrets off. I think the turrets I think overall the turrets have demonstrate our favorite thing to encounter is turrets because they never ever do us any harm.
It's entirely true, actually. They've never seemed... Whenever you've encountered turrets,
That's
they've never seemed...
Awesome.
Yeah. But, if it came down to it, if you were fighting for your lives in the bunker, maybe you might want those momentary annoyances. Anything that slows down your enemy even a little bit.
Well, I mean, we obviously need more generators and more cabling, and obviously you can all see where I've drawn the extra room where I'm convinced this bunker should have been finished.
Yeah, I'm sure we can upgrade this system for now. So I think for now, I'd probably like to set it up so that we can kind of just switch on and off various things and still have the security. So, like, we don't need the pings while we're here. Oh, no, we might need the pings.
We don't need the turrets while we're here.
We don't need the turrets while we're here, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And while we're away, we don't need the air conditioning so you can have the turrets and the security system going at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, while we're here, we have a biological turret, and very few things are still standing after he's had a full round at them.
Yeah. So, Azure, it's pretty simple to do. You inject some of your own custom code. You tell the system that whenever you leave the facility, that you'll ping it, that you'll essentially sign off, alerting the system that you're no longer in residence. The air conditioning and the climate control will turn off, maximum security will come on, and you'll receive any pings if anyone tries to break in while you're gone. For now, though, the air conditioning hums away, and as Frank suggested, all of the turrets are powered down for the time being, so it can run while you're in the base. You re-emerge from cyberspace, exhausted but proud of yourself after what felt like several hours of grueling coding and maintenance, even though it really only took about a fraction of that time. And as you emerge and gesture at the bank of monitors with a flourish, I'd like everybody to go ahead and make a presence check, and you may add +2 if you have perception.
I think I can only add +1 to perception, right? Yep.
That's right.
-2 to presence, so I rolled a 10.
Rolled a 1.
I rolled a 19.
And how much did Azure get?
10.
10. And how much did Frank get, sorry?
Frank subtracts 2 but adds 1, which means he
Three.
gets a 12.
12. So Azure and Charlie, you don't see it. You're too busy examining the mainframe, making sure all of the parts are working. Charlie's using his multi-tool to tighten screws, swap wires here and there, performing long overdue maintenance on the mainframe, and you Azure, you're doing your best to make sure that this mainframe is disconnected from the city-wide web. You work tirelessly. Charlie in Meatspace, Azure in cyberspace, to make sure that this control room, this bunker, is a network unto itself, a fortress in both the physical world and the digital world. You
As
don't
Azure's
know.
working, you see like the sort of green matrix symbols just kind of cascading down her faceplate.
Down her face as she furiously types. You hear the squeak of Charlie tightening bolts on the mainframe, reaffixing metal plates that have come loose. Only PU and Frank notice a flicker of movement on the bank of monitors. It's on the bottom row, the last monitor on the right. The one that has a clean view of the long, wet, disgusting sewer tunnel that runs right outside the exit of your bunker. At first, you think it's an animal, a giant rat, a giant bat, another warg, something shuffling in the shadows, creeping along the edge of the tunnel, desperately shimmying to avoid the water. You cautiously watch it for a moment, watch until it finally reaches the door that leads into your bunker and enters the ambient light. A man, middle-aged, late 50s, early 60s, with long, dishevelled, wiry, greying red hair and thick spectacles. Kartel Maker's logo embroidered on his lab coat. You watch as he steps forwards, reaches up, tries to open the door, and finds it securely shut. And then, to your surprise, he doesn't swear, he doesn't shout, he doesn't look disappointed at all. Instead, he simply steps back from the door, nods, smiling. And as he walks once more back into the dark shadows of the sewer tunnel, there's a broad smile on his face. And that's where we'll leave it.
Oh.
Baby?
Well done, punks. Welcome to your new digs.
It's a bit of cleaning. A lot of cleaning.
Sure, it's a fixer-upper. It's definitely a fixer-upper. You're going to be cleaning the place for several weeks. You're going to need to fumigate, as PU says. You're going to need to utterly sterilize every corner of this place. You're going to need to get some mattresses for the bunk room, fix the shower heads in the shower block, actually put something in the rec room, because if you searched the rec room, you would have found it to be completely empty, save for a single broken down Space Invaders machine in the very back. An antique. One of Dr. White's personal favourites.
Hello, kitty.
But the good news is that Rex seems to love it. Deep underground, warm, cozy. It seems safe and secure. Pattern pulled through. You've got a safe house. And from here, you've got a base of operations. You're not just punks scrounging in the gutters looking to make ends meet. Finally, you're a professional outfit with a home base. A place to call your own. A place to regroup. A place to hide. And maybe one day, when the time comes, a place where you can have your last stand against the corporations and the tyrants that terrorize the city of
You make
Psy.
it sound like there's going to be a final battle here or something.
Well, you did do several things today that will come into play later. The good news is you got in without destroying the security system, you got it powered up, you rid it of monsters, and brought it up to scratch. Brought it back up to operating capacity without doing much damage. And that's going to be invaluable.
And we have a personality chip for Beaker.
For Beaker, whoever he may be. You've got a place to call your own, a place where you're supposed to feel safe, and yet all you can feel is frustration, puzzlement. There are so many questions and so little answers.